Welcome to the Nomu Hour podcast. I have my guy, Elvis Kolawole, with me. He's a marketeer and blockchain enthusiast with over 7 years of experience in scaling companies across various industries. His approach combines data driven strategies and creative human centered experiences. He's also a writer, creator, and he's known for expertise in social media marketing, search engine optimization, and display advertising. Welcome to the podcast, Elvis.
Hi, thank you so much, Juan. I'm glad to be here, and oh my gosh, it's been such a long time coming.
I
Yeah, I'm
know.
happy to be here and talk about this industry and talk about marketing, my bread and butter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want, you can first, just tell me how you got into marketing, how you got into all the tech that you're into now.
Okay. So, let me start with marketing. As for marketing, actually, the way I got into marketing was basically trying to find some way to make money online.
Okay.
So I think actually, if I remember correctly, it must be like the age-old how to make money online. I must have Googled that at some point. I can't remember it, but I must have done that. And then I think it led me down a rabbit hole, and where I ended up was okay, like the understanding that hey, if you wanted to try and make money online, perhaps one of the best ways was to perhaps have something to sell. Perhaps if it's a service or if it's a product or something, you usually have to have something to sell, and you need to be able to, show what you're selling, and get it to the right people. So I felt I wanted to
Mhm.
know how to do that, and I want to know how to do that for affiliate products and other different kinds of products. So from there, I basically started to learn how to, of course, drive traffic to products, drive traffic to services via social media. I basically started with social media. From then on, of course, it expanded to everything else. It expanded to writing. It's expanded to search engine optimization. It's expanded to paid advertising and, you know, full marketing funnels, full strategies, and all of that. Continue to train myself as more and more opportunities came through. And a bit later, by 2020, um, by 2020, I got introduced to to crypto, or no, let's say I got reintroduced into crypto, because I think the first time I got really introduced into crypto was actually via scam around 2017,
Oh, yeah.
which was a scam that, a friend of mine got scammed, and then that was my first actual introduction into the world. Yeah, funny, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There was like the entire uh, I think ICO era of that time. I think 2017, 2018,
Yeah.
sort of. So yeah, that was my real introduction. I didn't touch it again. I was like, oh yeah, this shit is full of scams. This makes no sense. So that was my entire thing until around 2020 when I bought Bitcoin. I think during the pandemic or maybe before, and and then I think later on, I think a year later, I found work with Crypto Casino, and basically I've been working in the space ever since. So since then, been doing different things. I think started a podcast, started to create more and more content, put out um, I put out a marketing playbook to help people understand marketing, helped quite a few projects here and there to build communities with lots of people. Did quite a lot. Facilitated airdrops, facilitated different kinds of campaigns that helped increase token holdings, increase the value of tokens, sell out NFTs. It's a lot of it basically. So yeah, let's just say it's been fulfilling so far. I'm still very bullish on the space.
Yep.
It's been crazy actually, like lots of ups and downs, and but I remain largely bullish on the space, and glad to be here. Honestly, so
Yeah. I was laughing when you said that thing about getting scammed on an ICO, and that's how you got into crypto, because it's the same thing that happened to me. Yeah, I got scammed into an ICO too, and I had the same reaction as you. Like, this is all bullshit. This is all scams. And I didn't look at it for a couple of years. I mean, I kind of paid some attention to it, but I didn't really look at it until, yeah, around 2020, 2021. Um, so what made what do you think? I was having this discussion yesterday. What do you think makes Web3 marketing? What does Web3 marketing mean to you?
Okay, so Web3 marketing, I believe, is marketing that basically uh, deals with, looking at marketing from a different point of view. Like for traditional marketing, usually it's very clear where, say, the users, where the investors or the builders of products tend to be. But then, like in pure Web3 terms, like
Yep.
the one of the core tenets of Web3 is actually decentralization. And as a result, because of that, the user of a product, the builder of a product, and the investor in the product can often be one and the same person, or at least it can be one person having one of those roles. And you know, basically, to understand Web3 marketing is to understand the nuances of trying to market to one person that might hold the role of an investor and user, or an investor and builder, or somebody
Yep.
that basically holds any one of these three roles at the same time. I think that's the best way I look at marketing for Web3. And of course, it goes without saying, like understanding the fact that this is basically a new iteration of the internet, and that you have to you have to market to people who are forward thinking, progressive, and hold values such as transparency, decentralization, and and people who will definitely want to be rewarded for their time and have ownership over different parts of the process, not just to use a product, but also have ownership of products that they use every day. So that's basically the mentality one should go into usually when trying to do Web3 marketing.
Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is you treat users as stakeholders, basically as
Yes,
some sort of shareholder, even in some cases. Which
yes.
it's a concept that I like, because I was in the world of DAOs, and that's taking that to kind of the extreme. But yeah, I was having this discussion yesterday. Like, is Web3 marketing, just using Web3 technology to get to more people, or is it, you're saying that just basically getting the values from Web3, the Web3 philosophy almost, and applying it to marketing. That's pretty interesting. So how has your experience in marketing in general changed since you got to know Web3? How did you know adapt to that?
Ah man, I will say a lot of things have changed. So I'll say, for one, something that I'll say Web3 marketing has actually had a bit of an effect on the wider industry, if you call it Web2. Because the funny thing, like it's only when you're a person that plays in Web3 that you tend to call other industries Web2.
Yeah,
I found out at some point, I'm in a bit of a bubble calling everything else Web2.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but that's just behind the point. Anyway, so
yeah.
yeah, I'll say there are a few ways it's changed my perspective as regards to marketing. Number one is the idea of communities. As you know, communities are the bedrock of Web3 marketing. And and having a community coming in and hold a prominent and play a prominent role in the development of products, in the adoption of a product, and basically in the successful outcomes of a product is something that people theorize a lot. in Web2, right? In fact, there are different ways people have tried to do it. For example, I would say Amazon created what is called a flywheel. So it's basically a play on marketing funnel. You know what a marketing funnel is, yeah?
Yeah.
So so
But
yeah,
you can you explain a little bit what it is for people who may not know?
okay.
You know. Yeah.
So basically, so marketing funnel is basically like a system that in which there's basically a top in which people do not quite know about a product, and then they simmer down different levels where they learn more about the product, interact with talking points, interact with narratives, interact with communications that convince them of how good a product or how good a service really is until they are finally at the bottom and they are convinced to buy. So usually it's a straight up thing. Say 100 people get into a funnel, or 100 people are aware of a product at first, and then they're engaged in different ways through different means, and then at the bottom you have a conversion, what marketeers
Okay.
call a conversion, and then maybe perhaps 10 people, 5 people out of the initial 100 are eventually converted, meaning they buy the product, or they take on the action that you want them to take. So that could be buying a product, signing up to a wait list, um, you know, doing a transaction, or whatever it is. So
Okay.
that funnel is basically it's something that's existed in marketing immemorial. Like it's existed like pretty much since marketing has been a thing, like for the last century. And something that people like Amazon tried to do was basically have the end users to drive more of the product development and drive more aspects of the product outcomes. So one of the ways included, in um, bringing about things like 1 day shipping, 24-hour shipping. That wasn't a thing that people thought was possible before. People just felt it was impossible. Even though it was impossible, it felt like it was something that was far too expensive, not exactly something that made business sense. But they tried to have, to satisfy users at all costs. And that's philosophy of satisfying users at all costs was also something they built in. Sorry, was something they decided to feed into intentionally. So users who were satisfied were people who would basically be delighted and basically have other people come into the ecosystem. They will become ambassadors for the product, and then it will create really, really strong network effects, and those strong network effects would in turn help boost the company's bottom line, and and basically help the company grow at scale more organically. This was something really new. I think in the 2000s, I would say Amazon was one of the bigger pioneers of this. And I would say
Hmm.
many other companies, out there try to, would I say, implement different versions of this. But then I would say Web3 has taken this to another level with communities. As
Yeah.
you said, with DAOs, you have, entire companies plus entire product lines that are built off of community feedback, not necessarily just the thoughts of the builder or just thoughts of investors. Like we tend to have, you have like entire companies that are built off of what users want, user pain points, and this is, these companies are built from the ground up, and it involves not just product development but marketing and scaling from there. So that's something I would say that's a really key mindset shift. The way that community building and community management has been implemented in the Web3 space, it's really changed my mind about that. And thankfully, it's not just changed my mind, it's actually changed the mind of a lot of executives in Web2 as well. Lots of people in Fortune 500 companies now see the value in this, and thankfully,
Yeah.
they're they're actually implementing more community focused or community powered initiatives, due to uh, what's been implemented in Web3. Another second thing, without the danger of like whining on and on about this, is the part about ownership, right? We've talked about ownership of your data, ownership of your likeness. This is not exactly something that's been pushed as a marketing narrative. It's not exactly something that's been used or harnessed in marketing. But then I would say that Web3 marketers have shown how to actually do this and how to actually make an experience to be fruitful, not just for the company, but also for the user themselves, and this is a paradigm shift compared to what's been obtainable in Web2 marketing. So I'll say those two things are really huge when it comes to the way Web3 marketing has changed my mindset and mindset of so many other marketers.
Yeah, I think that your arguments are really solid, and it could, drive some of the let's call them Web 2 companies, as you said, to start exploring these types of strategies. But here in at least here in Spain, how if things are working in a certain way, it's pretty tough to get people to change. So how are things like in your country? Do you think it's easier to convince people to start using these strategies? What type of data do you show them to support it? How do you make an argument of this?
How I make an argument to begin implementing this. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for Web 2 companies,
Yeah, yeah. I
because
mean, okay, yeah. So I think firstly, I'll say the proof is in there in the pudding.
yeah,
It's easy to make a case when there is already some precedent for success. Especially when you see that there are top companies around the world, the likes of Nike, the likes of Starbucks, the likes of so many others, like trying Web3 initiatives and gaining results. I think just that, if you call it a seal of approval or something,
okay,
is enough to show that hey, there is a future in implementing these technologies. Of course, you don't actually have to shoehorn blockchain based technology for technology's sake. It has to be results based. It has to be something that actually drives results. And if it
yeah,
does make sense, if you have a similar business model to any one of these companies, say to Nike, if you have a consumer product, for example, that's very heavily brand based, you can convince people that, hey, you can convince a smaller company that, hey, this is Nike doing this. Your customers can find value in having some sort of equity in your brand by having real ownership, provable ownership that's immutable on a blockchain. And you can also have something like a reward program in which the assets that they're awarded by are secured by blockchain and also immutable,
yeah,
such as what's been done with Starbucks. So you can have stuff like this, given that there's already results from really big players in the space already. Really big players from, you know, everyday companies that we know and love. So I think it's easy to do that, given that there is precedent. And in the second option, you can always think of it as, would I say, a way to a way to how would I describe it? An alternative way to do what they're already doing before. For example, if they run ads or something to gain some impressions, or if they already have physical spaces that they build or something, you can tell them instead of building, physical spaces to grab market or mind share, you can do that within virtual space and have people receive some virtual assets in this virtual space and have virtual experiences within these virtual spaces. If for example a company already does ads, you can have them think, hey, you can instead target your ad campaigns towards people who are wallet holders or something like that. And basically you can have them think of Web3 users as new consumer segment, which they can basically implement strategies that already worked for non-Web3 users. So I think these are ways you can, think of. pitching these things to Web3 company, Web2 companies.
Yeah, yeah. I think use cases are some of the best ways to show how successful they can be implementing those same strategies that those bigger companies are using. And now I wanted to get your opinion on how do you think blockchain is going to affect the use of social media. Social media. The U.S. is trying to ban TikTok. There's been studies. There's been studies on how bad social media can be for certain group age groups. Everybody's kind of addicted to their phone. So, how do you think blockchain can impact that? That the news are not fake, the trolls, all that stuff.
I think people want to be compensated a bit more for their their time and their data. I would actually argue that the commercialization we've seen in what I say blockchain based social media platforms, which tend to reward people in one way or the other for using their platforms, is a big part of the what I say wider mainstream push towards rewarding users more. Because I don't think,
Okay.
yeah, I don't think, I mean, it was a thing that lots of people were doing. Most of these companies were trying to weigh if it's something they do or something they might not do. But now I would say the trend is going towards paying creators more because there's more of, a recognition of the value that creators actually bring to social media and the network effects thereon. So I would say that's one thing. Number one, that the fact that, there's probably going to be more compensation for people who spend their time on social media. It's not really going to be a generation where everyone just wants their time and their data and their interactions to be used for free. Number one. And number two, I would say another thing is I feel like a social media, blockchain-based social media might usher in a new age of trust. Um, so currently, a lot of the algorithms and the systems that help um, censor social media are of course understandably AI based. These days when we say
Yeah.
AI, like a lot of us think generative AI, but of course, the artificial intelligence is actually required to actually do a lot of the heavy lifting. Where there aren't these what's their name? Uh, People that censor. Uh,
Yeah.
what are
Like the validators or the sensors.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember their names, but you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so in the absence of these people, it's usually quite a
The
lot
the
of
fact checkers. The fact checkers.
yeah,
Now I got it. Yeah.
fact checkers, all that stuff. So like in the absence of that, it's probably going to be a lot of AI. But then, in order to actually make the AI trustable, you need um, or one of the solutions that's being brought on by leaders in the space is the implementation of AI or smart contract guardrails in order to, basically keep AI in check. So, the smart contracts can basically help safeguard or create some limits, with what smart contracts are able to process and the sorts of discretion that they're able to have. So it is going to prevent stuff like discrimination. It's going to prevent lots of misuse of the platforms. It's going to prevent bullying, and generally, it's going to prevent dissemination of wrong information, fake news, and basically clean up the experience much more. So I would say, yeah, the two things has to be ownership and better control of these platforms. I would say those are two major ways that I think blockchain could shape social media going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm asking this because we've seen that social media can be used as a kind of as a weapon. against people. And there's studies coming out saying that it might be social media might become like the new like tobacco, where it was like so advertised and so popular, and it was really damaging people. But we just don't have we we don't have enough time of it being used for studies to be really
Yeah,
accurate.
yeah.
So you think it could help there too, with all that stuff like the troll farms. I think that some verification of that you're a real person
Mm.
should be made too, because we've seen them affect elections in some countries, and it's just getting crazy. It's a little scary.
Yeah, so the thing is, um, I'll say I'll say that for the most part, anyway, like it's become what I say a bit of a political issue, the sort
Yeah,
of thing where you have to think about identity. But then, for starters, like if you are going to have an identity that is immutable, definitely it has to be stored on a blockchain, because like a record on a blockchain cannot be um, tampered with. So that would be for starters. And then also, I would say that, like I said, blockchains are great with verifying data. They're great with providing guardrails against misuse. So I would say that blockchain technology is definitely going to help. But then, as far as some of the other problems, I'll say some other things are rather human human
yeah,
problems rather than technology problems. Stuff like fake news, stuff like bullying, harassment, stuff like, of course, the political angle of all these things. I think those are a bit outside of the purview of what would I say any one technology has to fix, because I don't think every problem is technology based. There are some problems that need more of the
yeah,
human consensus before you have technologies that help enforce that human consensus. For example, like with social media, we a lot of us want free speech, but then the problem comes when you try to define where speech actually is, where the border between free speech and bullying is. So all of
yeah.
these things are subject to human interpretation, and I would say there are more human problems than you know just purely tech based problems.
Yeah, I was just asking how this new technology can help us be solve these human problems that we see that seem to be replicated,
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. I think that there has been a change in the use of social media in recent years. Like, I don't, at least in people like that I follow or whatever, I don't see people posting as many Instagram posts anymore. It's all about the reels, it's all about the stories, but the posts themselves have, like, there's been some change. I don't know if you have any information on those type of changes, or do you know where it's headed? But
Uh, no, not really. I don't. I think for me, I personally don't like pay that much attention to some of those things anymore. But then ultimately, like what I prefer to, would I say, pay attention to, or would I say stuff that generally ensures like more views, more shareability, more virality, because I think that's what drives my own, would I say, my own outcomes, especially like being a marketer, right? Like that's what
yeah,
I tend to concern myself with. But then like as regards like what's happening, on a day to day, I'm just like ugh, I like sometimes it gets overwhelming. So I just try to focus
yeah.
on what actually like drives my key outcomes.
And what do you think can make a campaign or a post or a video viral? That secret sauce that everybody is looking for. Do you have any kind of recipes for it?
Okay. So I think it differs like in every platform, but I think there are a few things that stand out. So number one is having, what people call a hook. So that's basically like either the first few lines or maybe the first few seconds of video. Because like how attention spans are these days. Like if you can't catch somebody sometimes within a few milliseconds, not even a second, you can't catch somebody's attention between 1 second, sometimes two at best. Like that person is gone and they're gone forever, and the person has swiped away.
Hmm.
Because attention spans are pits that you need a hook. And then two is, storytelling skill. I think the ability to build a story, to build a cogent story that has beginning, a bit of a cliffhanger. Aside from the hook, there probably should be a cliffhanger that convinces somebody to want to either read the middle of your post or watch the middle of your video and then go all the way till the end. There's that. And then thirdly, also and also basically trying to remember that you are creating content for humans, right? So I think sometimes it's usually lost on people who are trying to be viral or trying to create on social, the fact that they're actually talking to humans, and
Yeah.
ultimately, like you are trying to tug at the emotions of humans. Humans are emotional. Humans react, sometimes irrationally, or sometimes, no, sorry, I was going to say rationally. No, not rationally. Humans react mostly very irrationally to a lot of things, whether in a good or a bad way, right? And that's why you see, like on some social media platforms, you tend to see that stuff that, would I say, incites hate, or stuff that incites some negative emotions tend to be
Yeah.
popular, or it generates a lot of reactions, especially if it triggers a particular demographic or something, because like it tugs at a particular emotion somewhere. So if you remember that, hey, if you remember, perhaps maybe not to incite something or trigger somebody badly, but basically create something that can actually tug at the emotions of a human being, with the thought that, hey, I'm actually creating for a human being, you have a much higher like chance of going viral. So I would say, like, that's usually what I have in mind.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you that the people watch a lot of videos that trigger them. Like myself, I sometimes get caught up in watching something that I'm like, dude, this is getting me angry, and I can't stop watching it. You know. So, I'm like, damn it. I can't. I really can't stop watching until the end. And then and it's crazy how like algorithms work, because they send you these little pieces of this type of content, and if they see that you're like, I can't help but watch it, then they start bombarding you with all that stuff. But you can see how they try new things. They say to you, just if you like, I'm gonna send you something new, just if you like it. And yeah, it's wild. They for sure, have real like great psychologists, I think, behind all of that, all of those strategies for
Yeah,
sure, because they get
yeah.
everybody.
There's this book I read. It's called Hooked. Hooked. Have you heard about it? Hooked.
Okay. No.
Hooked, by, I think it's called. It was written by a
Okay.
guy called Nair Eel or something. So I think it's basically a product management book. It basically like details a bit about human psychology and why, the parts of human psychology behind creating products. I mean, digital products that actually hook people. That's why it's called Hooked. Yeah, that's why it's called Hooked. So that book, in a way, in fact,
Yeah.
I sort of consider it a black book, because I think it was written, I don't know, 2013 or so. But it basically like showed lots of the principles, that make these products to be gamified or take on more gamified features. Things like
Yeah.
the icons that they use, the colors they use, the timing of different animations, the timing of different features, and the way some of these features interact with each other in order to give you dopamine, because it's in your brain. There's this chemical called dopamine, it's the chemical that sort of gives you good feelings, whether feelings of excitement or there's a bit of dopamine every time you do something you really like or something you really enjoy. And I'm talking like down to the very primal
Yeah.
level. I'm talking things like whether you drink very cold bottle of soda on a very hot day, or whether you have sex, or whether you play a video game. I mean, down to the very, very primal stuff, like a lot of dopamine is in there. So these people basically have found ways to use these digital products to, help secrete more dopamine and, get you more hooked. So fuck yeah. So if you would like to, if you're an unethical builder, like so many people have become, yeah, by all means you can try to, be that type of person.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of studies that say that people have an excess of dopamine because so much of it is really accessible and so easy to get now, where it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't before in human
Yeah.
history. So I think that there's obviously a problem with that. Like, for example, a friend of mine recommended me to put my phone on black and
Uh,
white mode, and yeah, so you eliminate those dopamine feelings that you get from the app
uh,
colors and the notifications and all that stuff. And it is really
yeah.
true. Like my usage has gone down quite a bit. People think I'm crazy or I have a vision problem, probably. But it really
Yeah,
is
it
working.
does. It does. And like, like everyone is the thing is it's more of a race. Like that's one of the I'll say if I'll say the pitfalls of social media today, because there are lots of marketers like myself who actually know, the fact that they're like, in order to like gain attention, you have to tuck some emotional string somewhere. You have to have somebody's dopamine sources being, messed with a little bit, and then basically you have entire platforms that are hinged on lots of people attempting to do that exact same thing. And yeah, it's I guess it becomes a clusterfuck at some time, at some point, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't judge people who like me myself. I put clips out on YouTube, and I've gotten a lot of really good
Mm,
information from the internet. Like I've listened to podcasts for a long time. Been You get really good content sometimes in on Instagram Reels, whatever. But the problem is that you get like a couple good videos, you're kind of hooked, and then the next video is like a girl on a bikini or whatever, wearing a bikini or whatever, and you're like, all right, I know what you guys are doing here. Um, but yeah,
mm.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. I'm quite worried about all that stuff, honestly. And I wanted to ask you, as a marketeer, because marketing has, I see it as kind of like a two-sided kind of industry where you have the more analytical part of it, and then the more creative part of it. How do you, as a marketeer, balance those two parts of it?
Sorry, which parts as a marketeer? And
As a marketeer, how do you balance the more creative side of marketing and the more analytical side of
yeah,
marketing?
so many people have different approaches. So I would say, firstly, for me, I would say I am, as regards your question, so I am generally, would I say, a creative marketer, like I said, that loves data. So my process is usually trying to be creative first, because I think it's easy to, would I say, to dispel, or basically to parse through a lot of data, and try to be, the new company that's just data driven. But I think creativity is like really lacking. So I try to come up with a creative idea first of all, then I try to um, test my creative idea using data. So I try to look for data sets or look for precedents that basically uh, um, validates my idea or validates my thought process, like no matter how creative it is. So if I'm trying to do an engagement farming campaign, whether it's some sort of an engagement farming campaign, an ad campaign. Usually, it's something that I have to validate. If, for example, I feel like, oh, my target customers are in one certain geographical location, or they are a certain demographic of people, it's always something that has to be A/B tested, right? So for me, first things first, solutions usually have to be unique, and they have to be you have to come up with solutions that are creative and you know and usually innovative, and then you try to you try to be data driven when it comes to validating it, and when it comes to actually scaling and dropping off what works and what doesn't work. So so I'd say
Okay.
that's my approach.
Nice. That's a. I think that's a pretty clear approach, and people can understand that fairly easily. Could you share some of the projects that maybe you've worked on or you're currently working on that that you're excited to talk about?
Okay, so for some of
Hmm.
them, I can't quite talk about some of them, but I'll share a few of
Okay.
them. So at some point, I worked on a project called Rich Quack. It's a launch pad, a crypto launch pad that also has a meme coin. And thankfully, during my time, we're able to do quite a lot of campaigns and grow the community by, tens of thousands of people, and also thankfully also increase the token value by around $5 million in the middle of bear market. So yeah, and
Wow.
and yeah, that included everything from lots of content, lots of pure collaborations with trading communities, collaborations with alpha groups, collaborations with KOLs, and of course, lots of engagement campaigns that were hosted on platforms like Zeely and Galaxy, which are usually used for outsourcing some engagement farming and giving people rewards for engaging. I would say yeah, Galaxy is more on chain. Um, so so yeah, I would say that's one of them, and I would say I also had quite a lot of success with Legends of Crypto as well. A cryptocurrency game, a GameFi game, in which we're able to sell um, its first NFT collection successfully. And there are others, a few airdrop campaigns here and there, other communities grown, and other stuff like that. And
Hmm.
also, I would say something I would say is a success also would also be my marketing playbook, because a lot of people, have told me that they've been able to use that as a starting point to actually begin campaigns. And that's something that I was like, oh, if we helped you.
Damn, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, and like I was in there thinking, okay, just a few people, might need this, and then thankfully to see how many people really needed something like that was really heartwarming for me. So that's something I'll say is a huge success for me so far.
How do you keep yourself updated with marketing trends, with technology trends?
Yeah, I think the same way as a lot of people. Mostly, I have a couple of newsletters, and and people I follow on Twitter. Basically, those two. I
Okay.
I hardly I hardly do much else after aside from that, because I'm already like very immersed in the space, with partners, with projects, with people who play within Web3 space, and also people who are marketeers on the day to day. So there are lots of exchanges of ideas, lots of exchanges of would I say updates, and a real understanding of the sentiment. But then I'll say, if I a lot of my updates on what happens, it's usually on social, especially on Twitter, and yes, occasionally on LinkedIn as well.
Okay.
And primarily actually via newsletters, because lots of newsletters that go deeper into, you know, what a lot of the news you should know about, and also into, you know, a lot of nuance behind new trends you should understand. So yeah, I think that's how I tend to stay up to date.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. I might have to check your marketing guide to grow, yeah,
Yeah, that would
to
be
grow
great.
the to grow the podcast because I'm looking
Yeah.
for different strategies. There's different approaches. I know, I we can record and post it on different social media platforms, but I want to know like the ins and outs a little bit to kind of grow it and
Mhm.
get a little more value out of it. So I might have to check that. Where can I or other people who might be interested find
Um,
your guide?
the easiest way to find it is either on my LinkedIn profile or on my website, www.elviskolawole.com.
Okay,
I think you can find it elviskolawole.com slash free resources on my website. You can also find it on my LinkedIn profile. So any one of those should
nice.
should do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna check it out to see
Yeah.
how even when I'm talking about my company's brand, the Nomu Labs brand, we're also trying to look for a more strategic approach. Let's say a more
Mm,
organized, strategic, planned approach because it can get a little overwhelming sometimes.
yeah, it does. It does. That's why my eyes are always are always the yeah.
You look good,
Cause
dude.
yeah.
Don't worry.
Thank you, man. Yeah, because marketing sometimes makes my eyes want to fall out, you know. Yeah, but it's all good. Yeah, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. I wanna know what do you think your future holds as a marketeer? Do you plan on starting an agency potentially? Do you plan on joining a company, or you just want to be a solopreneur like you're doing it right now?
So actually I'm on the verge of joining the company actually say right now, but at the same time I actually advise quite a lot of companies already, you know, help them once in a while with, you know, short term marketing needs and all. But I think long term, I would actually like to start like, you know, a project, what I say, bigger, more serious project, or scale one of the projects I have currently. Name of one of the projects I'm running currently, you know, using a few hours a week is called Crypto Coins VIP. It's
Okay.
a crypto media website currently with some DEX features, and I would like to scale that significantly. You know, perhaps you know, acquire users, scale it up, get some revenue, and see where that takes me. And I'll also want to, you know, start up like a few other projects here and there. So yeah, and basically scale other things I began already, such as my podcast, my
Okay.
newsletter, and you know, content on different social media platforms. So I'll say that's what is on the cards for me as it stands now.
Damn, it's quite a lot. I can get why you don't get that much sleep. I can understand. Can you
Yeah.
can you share some of those strategies that you have for upscaling your personal brand, your podcast, your newsletter? How are you kind of planning on doing that?
Personal brand. Currently,
Okay.
I'm sort of in the middle of re-strategizing the way I put out content. At least I've been able to see some moderate success in on platforms like LinkedIn. I have, you know, almost 13,000 followers on there, and but then I would also want to expand on X, expand on YouTube. I have like I think, oh no, not sizable. I think it's just a couple hundred or so subscribers on YouTube, but I want to actually scale that up. So I'm currently in the middle of strategizing how exactly I will do that. But the current plan is basically to have more human-based content.
Okay.
So generally, I want to create around Web3, which is a passion of mine, definitely. I want to create more Web3 content that focuses more on human beings because people hear about DAOs, they hear about NFTs, they hear about this and that, but lots of times people do not think too much about the human lives, the human stories behind those people who are using stable coins, those people who are building DAOs, those people who are aping on NFTs at 12 a.m. in the morning. So yeah, like these are real people, right? But somebody has to tell their story. Somebody has to talk more about all the different use cases and what they look like on the ground. So I want that kind of storytelling to be the bedrock of where who I am as content creator, and I want that storytelling and content creation to be a foundation to basically be top of the funnel for most of my other projects I plan to build. Because if you have generally, like in today's creator economy, as they call it, it's good if you control as much distribution as possible. So if you can find a way to control, hmm, yes. So basically, in today's creator economy, you have to you have to like do as much as you can to control distribution. So me building my personal brand is basically my attempt to build out distribution, the same way huge creators like, would I say KSI, Logan Paul, Mr. Beast, whatever, like, have entire ventures and they basically use their notoriety online to fuel traffic towards those ventures and attract investors and all that stuff. So basically I would want to do that within a Web3 context. So that's basically the
Hmm.
plan here and there.
Okay, that's a nice plan. That's a nice plan to have. Um,
Yeah.
ho- how in advance do you usually plan stuff? Because long term, the more long term the plans are, the more they change at the end.
Yeah, yeah. I would say honestly, it's just a thing of convenience because I'm always busy, but definitely I keep time for it. You know, if I need to keep time for it, like it's going to be done. For example, actually, I'm actually on a hiatus, so I'm going to tell you like why I'm actually on a hiatus, maybe off camera or something, but. I'm
Yeah.
actually on a hiatus, so say the next phase of content that might come out from me might be 2 months or so from now. You know, so yeah, it's quite crazy. Yeah, so generally I just do it like whenever I actually have the time, and when I'm able to schedule it. For example, I schedule a newsletter for every single week. I schedule podcast for one every single month. So that's usually what I try to keep with, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then
Uh
to kind of wrap up the interview because we've done almost an hour, which is
yeah.
what they usually are. Um, I wanted to ask, why strawberries? Because every time I see you, on LinkedIn, even your WhatsApp picture, I see a strawberry there. On your videos, there's a bunch of strawberries. What's going on with that? Why the strawberry?
Yeah. I would say it started with just love of the fruit. I'm tired of talking about it at this point, but I think it started like with just love of the fruit, and later now I'll say it's basically evolved into a why not strawberries? Like, some people will be like, "Oh, yeah, like the strawberries are too many," and for me, my entire like reaction to talking about strawberries, just adding more strawberries for no reason at all, just to
Okay.
just to piss people off or something.
I
So
mean, it's
and all of
yeah,
a sudden I'm starting to think, yeah, it might be my own thing. So I mean, why not just embrace it fully?
yeah. I mean, I've never heard of another strawberry man. So you have.
Yeah,
So we had some technical difficulties at the end of the podcast. So yeah, that was Elvis Kolawole. It's great to catch up with him. we'll do another episode soon. And yeah, see you soon.